Good evening, everyone. Here we are, eventually. Sorry about the late start. A grocery trip that was supposed to take an hour ended up taking 3 hours. Bit of a nightmare. But here we are. Hope we're all doing well. So as you can see from the roadmap, I've changed the icons to make it easier to see, but I've been slowly ticking off some of the to-do list items for the patch. I'm kind of keen to get as much of this ticked off as possible now to get this thing out the door. So I will be doing more of that this evening. However, I thought it would be nice if we do a poll, and then you guys can choose whether we're doing modeling or coding. I'm just trying to work out how to make one. Start a poll. There we go. That work? Let's find out. Why is yes and no an option? Oh, looks like modelling's winning so far. NPCs would be coding, yeah, but kind of has to be something on this list. Okay, modeling it is. Thank you, Delta. You'll be pleased to know, actually, I separated out the windows today, so the windows are no longer part of the VIP room mesh, which means we can put them back as windows again. And yes, as a show of thanks for your kind donation, we shall work on the bed a little bit. Why don't we do that? It seems completely lost in this room. I mean, that is a standard double bed, and yet it just looks so small. This is B-Deck, Oni Noni. Although what I need to do is what I was doing today. Basically going top down through the ship. So to get this thing out the door as a demo update, we need to make sure that all of the decks are square together where they should be. Yeah, my idea for the stateroom bedroom was to have some kind of a surround around the bed. So it's got like a bedside unit either side and kind of a built-in something over and around it. Thank you, Firstus. Right, so we'll definitely get those windows done today then. Yeah, so the windows are now separate objects, so they need to be. Actually, I'm assuming there's 4 panes there. I group them together. There's another reason they need to be separate objects is we need to add the hollow display thing, or rather the scene projection to the glass. So that's going to need adding, and then we need some scene projection controls on the wall somewhere. I will show you. Hang on. So this is D-Deck as it stands right now. Some of these bits need updating based on E-Deck. But this is the general plan. You've got the residential area in the centre, which is essentially just all the crew quarters. You've got like a bit of a, I suppose you could call it a promenade all the way around, or a ring road to use typical UK town planning. Town centre area at the front, and logistics and shuttleway and everything at the back. And if we go down to E-Deck, there's just a bit more detail here. So you've got the firing range there for the tactical department. You've got some brig cells across there, offices, and somehow there will be an armory here, but the angles are all a bit weird, so I just need to work out what I'm doing with that. Is my mic turned down? No, it seems alright. I was moving my mic earlier, and I pressed a button on it, and I can't remember which mode I was using. The open thingy. So I'm pretty sure I had it on cardioid. Switch it to stereo. I mean, does that sound better or worse? I found that stereo kind of picked up more of the fish tank noise. I think Omni is like all around recording, which means it literally picks up everything, which means you get a lot of echo on there. I think cardioid's just facing forwards towards me. I'll leave it on cardioid and we'll see how it goes. I think it's probably because it's closer to me than usual, and if I turn my head and face the other way, so I'm looking at my other screen, I'm assuming that's probably quieter now. And now I'm facing forwards, and now I'm looking left, and now I'm facing forwards again. Ah, okay. I'll try and keep my head still. I need to tighten the clamp because it keeps falling down, so it's just resting on my monitor at the moment. So talking of F-Deck, one of the things that we needed to do with F-Deck was actually connect it all up properly, because this bit underneath is still very much a work in progress. In fact, I've just mirrored the top of the ship on the underside just to kind of give myself an idea of the shape and depth of everything. So that needs gotten rid of, really. Yeah, I think it definitely works to add a bit of depth to the hull, because otherwise it's a very thin shape. So I think we definitely need the full width all the way across to the ring, which we kind of need anyway, because the entranceway up into the engineering spaces is through here. So regardless of anything else, we definitely need foot access all the way across to this level. And I think if I recall, I did actually bring at least some of that across. Yeah, because this maintenance tunnel here is actually level with the access point, so we can have the maintenance tunnel go around and connect to the ring. But then we also need stairs down into the support pile as well. So really, G deck needs connecting down into this vertical space. I'm not quite sure how wide that needs to be yet. Ideally as thin as possible. Let me have a look at, hang on, let me just move that. I mean, is it literally like super sensitive to me moving? I can move it away a bit, hang on. Right, so I've moved the microphone a bit further away, so hopefully it has a wider range. Let me know how it is. Yeah, hopefully it was just because the microphone was too close. If it's still doing it, I'll change the mode on it and see whether that helps. Oh, that's weird, because I wasn't even moving my head then. Hang on, let's change the mode. So I think that's front and back. So hang on, if I turn my head and speak left, and then forward, and then left, is that any better? What about... Okay, forward, left, forward, He left. How's that? Should we leave it on Omni then and see whether or not that helps? Stupid thing. Thank you, Galactic Survivor. That's a good idea. I should stick up a plexiglass sheet between me and the fish tank. I wonder if there's like a gain thing going on. This is me speaking normally, and this is me speaking quietly, and this is me speaking really quietly, and this is me speaking normally again. Let's run with it and see how it goes. Hopefully once the dev shed's built, it'll be a lot nicer. I will also try turning down the music ever so slightly as well. I could be messing with it. Hi Don. At the moment we're troubleshooting some microphone issues. Which is weird because nothing's changed about the setup since Sunday. And I'll have a proper test of it all after the stream and see if I can work out what's going on. Once the dev shed's finished, I'll have a proper studio area for recording. So hopefully the level of professionalism will go up somewhat. What are we doing? We are doing some modelling tonight. Essentially working top down. Just making sure really everything is where it should be. Earlier on today I was building some consistent door frames and door tracks for the doors themselves. So in the previous iteration, the doors were flat across the front and back. So rather than adhering to the curve of the wall, I was just flattening them off. Which in some ways was better, because it at least made the door holes consistently separated. But at the same time, you would lose the curve on the walls. So what I've done is I've created just a simple template for the door track, the door cassette. So this is scaled as such that the door fits inside it perfectly. And if we go for a 10 centimeter wide door, so that's 4 inches, I think. So a 4-inch thick door, and then we use that consistently across the board, then that means between the door track and the outside should be 7.5 centimeters to the midpoint, and then that would be consistent both sides. So hopefully if we use that same measurement across the board, then we can do a lot more in the way of copy pasting door frames. So we need to get that one lined up in there, and that one in there. Yeah, the elevator door frame is slightly different. Again, in the sense that I'm keeping the curve now on the edge there rather than straightening it across. A couple of reasons. One, it makes the carpet easier just to continue across, and it just keeps the wall framing consistent. It's going to need another door on the lift car. So you've got a door here, which is your standard door, and then a secondary door on the lift car, because obviously you don't want to go falling down if the door opens and there's no car there. So I think the temporary car, where is it? It's down there, isn't it? It doesn't have a door yet. Yeah, so it's got a hole for a door, but no actual door. So that's going to need sorting out. But the scaling is consistent here now as well. So it's got the same width of door track and the same separation between the door track and the outer wall. It should be exactly 15 centimeters. Yep. So I'm going to try and make sure that that's consistent for every single doorway, which means doors become interchangeable at that point, which could be useful further down the line if we have things like door customization. It'll be nice when they're all the same size and scale, so we don't have to worry about which one we're swapping with. Yeah, so the way that I'm doing it is that each ring won't need a separate door because the inside track is straight. So if I zoom out a bit, you can see here that you've got this straight track within the curved section. The worst one, obviously, is the inner wall here, because this one's the tightest curve. But as you move out to the outer rings, obviously this curve gets less and less intense. So it becomes straighter and straighter the further out to the edge of the ship you get. You do get this slight weird effect here where like the inner frame on this side is thinner than the outer frame, again because it's curving, but it's perfectly symmetrical in the center and then gets less symmetrical as you work towards the outside. But that's just, it's a side effect of having a circular corridor. Yep, controller support is coming in the next update. So once we've finished with this patch and we've got all the to-do list items ticked off, then the next patch is going to have controller support. Which has been a long time coming, but it's definitely needed. So let's measure the sensor there. The outside to the outside should be exactly 40-ish. It's a couple of millimeters out, but then imagine that's because of the curve. All we need to do is take a copy of this, pop that in there, flip it round, and then we just need to adjust these sections just so they're lined up properly. So that's and that. Edge just needs to line up with that edge, and then the same on this side. Yeah, searching for star systems by name is perfectly possible with the real world stars because they exist in a SQL database, so it's easily searchable. The challenge comes with the procedural stars because obviously the galaxy is created as you fly, so we don't know what's in a given sector until you get there. So it's difficult to be able to search for something which hasn't been generated yet. So what we need is a system whereby the name of the star is derived from the XYZ coordinates of the star, but have that also be backwards compatible so that you can derive the coordinates from the name. So you can work that in both directions. If we can get that right and formatted nicely, then you should be able to type in the name of the star, and then algorithmically we'll know where it is purely from its name. But that's an algorithm that we're going to have to write at some point. Exactly that, yeah. Yeah, Stargate style numbers. But it's the only way of doing it, really, because again, with it being procedural, you just don't know, what's where until you get there. What I find fascinating about the Elite Dangerous approach is that they pre-generate everything, or at least as far as I understand they do. So they've got multiple terabytes worth of data stored because they run an algorithm to generate the galaxy and go through all the math that's needed to do the galactic structure and all the star systems and things. And then you can search for those stars because they've been pre-generated. We're not pre-generating anything because obviously we can't ship several terabytes worth of database structure with the game. Neither do we have an online server somewhere where we can stream that from. So we need to do it using clever algorithms instead. Mirrored components there? Yes, we do. That makes life easier. So current doors within the game have this this door cassette as part of the actor. So when I'm popping door frames in, it's popping the cassette in with the door frame. What I want to do is actually start making them part of the framework instead, and then just have probably just a simple plane just to attach the doors to so they can pop into place. Let's export this out and see what it looks like. BIP. It's just ones. I imagine with all the brackets on this one, it's probably the the highest poly piece of framework on the ship. Yeah, almost 350,000 faces. Yeah, and if you make each face a polygon, that's probably more like 600,000 polys just in this framework section, which is ridiculous. But then we do live in the age of Nanite, so not so much of an issue. So you can see right now the framework doesn't have any door cassettes. So hopefully doing it this way round and including the door cassette within the framework will allow us to roll it out quicker across the rest of the ship. So it's estimated that the Milky Way has in the region of about 100 billion stars. That's just an estimate, and depending on where you look, that estimate's anywhere from 100 billion up to 400 billion. So, you know, that's a huge margin of error. In terms of the game, I'd say we're probably more in the region of 150 to 200 billion stars. It's difficult to say precisely because it's procedural and each sector is generated in isolation. We can't do a literal count of all the stars. We can only guess based on the average number of stars per sector. Yeah, I think when you include the entire galactic halo region, I think we're probably sitting around the 200 billion mark. There. That's probably not including the Magellanic Clouds, to be honest. That's just the galactic disk generally. I mean, the Magellanic Clouds probably don't have a huge number of stars. I think they're only in the region of about 10,000 light years wide. They're not massive spaces. That. Be the walls. Yep. Definitely looking forward to getting the large and small Magellanic Clouds in. And there's a third one as well. There's another dwarf galaxy which is on the opposite side of Sat J from where we are. And apparently it has a tail that loops around the Milky Way twice. So it'd be cool if we can model that. Yes, the stars, everything, right down to the placement of individual blades of grass, will be the same every time for all players. Because essentially the star system, the seed for that star system, is driven by its XYZ coordinates in the galactic space. So every star system has a unique seed. And because it's all based on its coordinates, then obviously that's going to be the same every single time for every player. And we have a coordinate system with a high enough resolution that we can have a unique seed for each square kilometer, so each cubic kilometer of a star system. So there's definitely a lot of seed space available. Yeah, it's an interesting point actually, VC5. It's not something I considered, but yes, I think putting more juice in it to get a longer range, I think that makes perfect sense. I would say 200 billion is a decent estimate. In the galactic disk itself, it's probably slightly less than that. If you work on an average of, I'd say about 4,000 stars per cubic 100 light years, that should give you a decent average. I mean, the naming convention needs to take the XYZ into account. So you probably need either a 3-word name, or at least say three sets of letters and numbers separated by hyphens, perhaps. And then you've got, I guess, you're going to need up to 6 digits, I would say, per, if we call them like syllables. So let's say a star has a 3-syllable name, and each of those syllables has to be a 6-digit number that can be converted back and forth. Yeah, I mean, hex could work, but it's not particularly pronounceable. It would be nice if it was slightly more sophisticated than that, so we actually had vowels and consonants in the right place to actually give pronounceable names. Thank you, Aaron. Needs a nanite enabling, actually. I'm not seeing any tessellation going on there. It does say nanite's enabled. I bet it's because... I was going to say because there's a glass texture there, but there isn't. What's going on there? Do we have a rogue glass texture somewhere? Is it working in the world? No, it's not. Okay. It's working there. Not there. If in doubt, turn it off and on again. Yeah, 1,000 sectors wide in diameter, and 10 sectors tall. Yeah, that's the fun part, Mark. We actually did have that at one point, but when we updated it to the new electrical system, I had to rerun the cables. But yes, they'll be snaking through all of these walls. Right, so we're not seeing any nanite tessellation at all on this mesh. So it's definitely enabled. Definitely not seeing any transparent materials there. Okay, so why is the nanite fallback mesh the actual original mesh? That's not normal either. Right, let's get rid of the relative error. Nope, still not right. How very strange. What's wrong? Right, so we don't have any rogue LODs with different textures hanging around. So it's definitely not that. Do we have collision mesh? No. Calderin, if you mean, can you load a sector in the distance? Yes, you can. The new Census UI actually does that now. Well, this is weird. It absolutely will not enable Nanite on this mesh. Now, the only reason that's ever happened in the past is because one of the materials has transparency enabled. Because Nanite doesn't support transparency. But in this case, none of them do, so I can't think of any reason. Yeah, so normally it would have been the window material, but there isn't any. There isn't even a mesh there. I took it out. So even only using the default texture, it's still not enabling Nanite. If you mean these windows here, there's no glass in them. It's all been removed. There's no glass here. It's all just bare framework. To be honest, it's the kind of thing that strikes me as being a bug. Yeah, these windows will have the scene projections on them. So you'll be able to sit in the crew quarters here and look across at any scene. Let's get rid of some of these other meshes a sec. I actually added a custom collision mesh to the floor, the framework floor of this one here, and I'll do that for all of them, so that we don't have the bumpity bump as you're walking across all of the framework pieces. Be nice and smooth. I love how mental Nanite is. Like, this is just showing you triangles rendered in the game, and because of Nanite tessellation, that's literally the poly count. It's just crazy high poly count. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how many polys there are there. It's just like magic when it works. So I reckon that might be bugged. So if I restart the engine, we'll see whether that is indeed the case. Yeah, view directions is an interesting one because it's going to require writing to a render target, and generally speaking, that's quite CPU intensive. So we'll have to see how we go about doing that one. I imagine the easiest way to do that is just to capture a global cube map, and then everything can access that cube map. So all the windows share the same cube map. Okay, well this isn't working. This is interesting. It's saying 0 megabytes on disk for Nanite. So weird. But I don't know why that's doing that, so I think I'll just move on for now. If anyone knows why a mesh will not work with Nanite when there are no transparent materials involved and it's literally just a static mesh, then do let me know, because that's weird. There's nothing different about this mesh as to any others, so yeah, that's a mystery. I might have to just delete the mesh and re-import it and see whether that works. It's so basically Nanite caches mesh cards and some other voodoo behind the scenes. If we look at another mesh, so let's pick, I don't know, this piece here, for example. So on here, you can see that 3.89 megs worth of data is stored by Nanite on disk, and it supports things like Nanite tessellation. So this texture is 3D. Properly 3D using some kind of voxel technique, which is possible because it's supported by Nanite. Now this mesh, as you can see, doesn't have Nanite tessellation happening, so it's just a flat texture, and no data is being stored on disk for Nanite. So this, despite having Nanite enabled, is not using Nanite. Yeah. So something broken about this mesh, essentially. And if I can't figure out what, then I will just delete it and re-import it. It's probably bugged in some strange way. But we'll move on, so we don't spend all night fiddling with one problem. I will actually demonstrate something I added. I added Crosshair selection and customization yesterday, so I'll just show you what I did with that. No, Nanite tessellation doesn't have any collision, so it will adhere to whatever the default collision mesh is. And in the case of those floor panels, it's just a rectangular cuboid mesh. So you can see right now my crosshair is just a dot. However, if we go into the settings under controls, we now have lots and lots and lots of different crosshairs to pick from. So you can now use that one instead. We've had quite a few people saying that they have trouble seeing the little dot, so there's lots of variations now. And it should still be visible on bright surfaces as well, adding a drop shadow to it. I do wonder whether that's a little on the large side, but full screen it's quite big. We can always add a scale function to this as well. Yeah, just a little thing. I quite like that one. It reminds me of Predator for some reason. We should at least have windows again, even though there's no glass in them currently. So in here, I think if we put a wooden surround around the bed, so the mattress is actually on something sort of flowing and organic. Have maybe some wardrobe space either side, or at least some kind of shelving. Perhaps a fish tank in here. I feel that the VIP quarters definitely need a fish tank somewhere. Yes, Paul. Go down and have a look. Oh, you mean here? Yes, definitely. Yeah. This is simply a result of the framework not being finished yet. So, yeah, this will all be fixed and put back to normal. Yeah, so the layout idea for the VIP quarters is, as you enter in through the door, you'll have a workspace here, so you'll have a desk with a chair, and we'll have it sort of facing this way, so you know, feng shui and all that, so you're not having it back to the door. I want to do some kind of like display case here on the wall, which should look quite nice, some shelves and things. This is going to be the kitchen area, so you'll just have general kitchen-y stuff, drinks machines, that sort of thing. Over in here you'll have a fitted sofa that goes all the way around with a coffee table in the centre, so you'll all be able to sort of sit around, have cocktail parties or whatever, especially with the serving hatch here as well, just to make that more of an experience. Obviously the bedroom's laid out like this, and then I'll probably have a large walk-in shower cubicle at the back here, with the toilet on one side and the sink on the other. That'll probably work. Yeah, something like model ships, or I like the idea of, at least if it's the player's quarters, just having the shelves empty. So as you're out exploring the galaxy and you're bringing things up from planetary surfaces, you're going to need shelf space to store things. So if you steal some village's idol, you can go and stick it on a shelf. Yeah, I was thinking about how supplies and things can be delivered to where they're needed without having to go through the general crew areas. So there's always like back access. So all of like the commercial spaces, in air quotes, but we don't really have room for it. So like in here with the kitchen. So all this is going to be, oh, heck, someone didn't turn on collisions. So all this is going to be kitchen space in here, and I can't step in there and stores at the back. But with the stairs coming up here, there's just no way in. So it's at least on B deck, there's no way in. On D and E deck, we've got a bit more space to work with for getting access to things. Oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting, in fact, because I put a custom collision mesh on this. Huh. Interesting. Definitely have a collision mesh. I wonder if it specifically needs to be set to complex there for that to work. I mean, it's not showing collisions. Okay. That's interesting. I thought you could just leave that as project default and it would use the collision mesh, but obviously not. Yeah, it's got collisions now. Okay, weird. Yes, John Areno, thank you, I did. So it turns out the plugin that I was using for SketchUp for doing upright extrudes was just not working. I re-downloaded the plugin with a slightly later version of it, and it just worked fine. So you can see now that we have the exact curves that we wanted. The handrails, and they have this sort of nice twist to them here, and that twist remains sort of consistently vertical all the way up. I wanted to make it smoother than it is, but I think that's just going to have to be smooth enough without fiddling with it for too long. I would guesstimate, on average, you're looking at about 4,000 stars per sector, roughly. Obviously, in the densest parts of the galactic rings, it's a bit higher than that, and in the inter-arm areas, it's a bit lower than that. It can go down as low as 2,000 stars, even 1,500 between the galactic rings. And then you get into the galactic core region, and it's something like 8,000 stars per sector. So it really depends on what area of the galaxy you're in. But I think on average, you're looking at about 4,000. Yeah, good luck with that. It's fascinating when you look at the stats for Elite Dangerous, because obviously Elite Dangerous has many thousands of players playing it at any one time, and they've still explored less than 1% of the galaxy in however many years Elite Dangerous has been out for. What is it, 10 years now? I can't remember when it came out. But yeah, less than 1% in all that time. So I think, like Elite, there's no way that every star in our galaxy can be explored in our lifetimes. It's just they're just too many. Yeah, I'd say 8,000 maximum, maybe 1,500 minimum. Obviously, as you go out of the galactic disk and start going into the halo region, you literally have anything between 0 and 4 or 5 stars per sector. The density drops off quite quickly. But in the main disk, in that main, well, the thin disk, so the thin disk of the galaxy is 1,000 light years thick, which is the 10 sectors. The thick disk is more like 5,000 light years, so that's 50 sectors, and that's probably in the region of about 1,000 stars per sector, off the top of my head. I haven't looked in a while. Either way, in total, you're still looking at a couple of 100 billion. So that was the doors done. I need to replace these with the new ones, but I won't do that yet. Ah, I'd be interested to see what you've come up with there. Chop some holes through that. Add some more support brackets. Yeah, generally speaking, that's the first thing most people do. They beeline straight for Sajay. I mean, in the real world, the density of stars in the galactic core is less. Well, sorry, it's more than 1 per square light year, cubic light year. So they are extremely densely packed together. Multiple stars per cubic light year, and multiple black holes around those stars as well. It's an incredibly dense and destructive part of the galaxy, and I'd love for it to be that mental in the game as well, to be that, to be so dangerous that flying there is a fool's errand. But obviously the reward for doing so needs to be huge. No, there will not be saucer separation because there isn't a saucer. Yeah, we'll need an achievement or something. We definitely need an achievement for flying into Sajay. Yeah. Right, let's So I'm keen to get more of this polished off and finished, and I'm thinking I might just start doing some of the wall surrounds on here. And getting the handrail height sorted. So I think I went with 90 centimeters. Did I or didn't I? Okay, it would have been 100 then, so probably 100 to the bottom. Yeah, 100 to the bottom. So that's should be that or thereabouts here as well. Okay, so they could do with going up a little bit. I want to keep it so that the handrails are consistently the same height everywhere around the ship. The shuttles are non-combat vessels, so they certainly wouldn't do it as fighter support, although in future iterations we do intend to include fighter craft, and in which case, yes, in that, once we get to the military ship, we'll work on that sort of thing. The AI crew will, however, use the mining vehicle and utility vehicles to perform tasks in support of keeping the ship running. Operational ship tasks, essentially. So we need a copy of that line there. Put into a group. It's a fair point, actually. We might have some vertically challenged aliens aboard. Yeah, the ship will be fairly self-sufficient, so the idea is that everything you need can be generated by the ship. It'll have its own hydroponics, organic 3D printers. So everything you need, you should be able to find or generate on your way. And things like repairs and maintenance will be carried out by the non-organic 3D printers, and those will need fueling by way of mining some resources. Yep, definitely. Yeah, the idea there is that the raw plant matter that you're growing in the hydroponics essentially becomes the fuel for the 3D printers. So it will resequence, you know, all those proteins and things, and create facsimiles of fruit and veg and meats and things, using the raw plant matter. So it's like a vegan burger, I suppose. The idea of the chef is they have to take those raw ingredients and, you know, turn them into something appetizing. Typically, this is not quite lined up. The axes definitely are. So. Yeah, so we should be looking at 7.5 to the inner edge. Yeah, there's something similar in Elite. There's an Elite mapping project that shows player exploration in real time. We can definitely do something like that by outputting just data to a file, even if it's just a comma-separated values file that just has timestamps for galactic coordinates. At least then we can sort of draw a path throughout the 3D space on a per vessel basis. And if all of those are combined together, that gives you a decent heat map for exploration, which would be, you know, fascinating to see. I'm a huge fan of data, so I'd definitely be all over that. So I want to continue the sort of a consistent design here all the way around. Just sort of working out where that fits when we do this overlap here. Which is going to go all the way around. guessing that the wood from the bottom here is just going to have to sit on top of the plastic that goes around there. And then this needs to, I guess that can be a sharp edge. Then we'll have the wood with the plastic on top, just forming a double edge there, which gives us our planting space. Which means we don't need that bit. He was indeed. Funnily enough, a lot of the work that we've been doing over the past few weeks, or probably months now, has been with damage modeling in mind. So take this floor here. So before, this was all just flat, and the floor panels just sat on the flat surface. But I really wanted to sort of elevate the damage model, literally, by having a cavity underneath with actual support structure, which is not unlike how it's done in a lot of real-world ships, because you've got cable runs running under the floors, and any other utilities that might need to be routed around and easily accessible. So, like with the wall panels, which here's one I prepared earlier. So, when this wall panel breaks or is damaged, it will reveal all of the framework and insulation and pipes and things that are hidden behind it. And the same with the floors as well. So when damage is received, those meshes will show the damage visually, and they'll have holes in them, and you can see what's underneath, behind the floors. Because one of the big things about what we're building here is that the ship has many layers of detail. It's not all just surface details. There's stuff going on behind the walls. We do already have code in the props and things to register a ship impact, so we can tell it how large the impact was and how much movement to add to the prop. So they could be everything from just a little wobble on the table to literally flying sideways. Right now, the impulse that's applied to them is random, but we can actually apply that impulse opposite to the source of any damage. So if something hits the ship on the left hand side, then all the plates and cups and things will go flying to the right in response to that damage. The only caveat to that is that if you can't see the prop, that system will be disabled, because we can't have every prop on the whole ship all moving at once, because that would probably crash the game. So anything within your visual sphere will fall off shelves and move around when the ship takes damage. Thank you, I do hope so. I'll round these off in a sec, I just wanted to see what that looks like. Yeah, that's definitely the idea. We wanted it to feel naval. Yeah, this is just my personal obsession. It's just like if I'm building a system or doing a simulation, I just can't do it by halves. I don't seem to have it in me. I always go all out every time. We have had a couple of publishers. I guess Paradox is probably the biggest publisher that's approached us. And we're not interested in a publisher at this point. I think we value our independence as a studio, and if we can do everything we need to do without the need for a publisher, then that's by far the best option for us as a studio. We don't want to be beholden to a third party. Yes, Oninoni. These are just the outer panels. I'm interested in getting the the mud in there actually, because I can use a nanite tessellated mud surface, which should be super detailed. Yeah, that is my number one concern with going with a publisher, is losing not so much the creative control, but more the temporal control, I guess, of the project. You know, ultimately, any publisher or investor is going to be interested in the bottom line, you know, in the return on the project, and that's not our focus. You know, we're not doing this for profit. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. We're doing this because we have a vision and we want to make a project. We want to make the game that we want to play, and that kind of idealistic approach, I think, generally isn't compatible with a commercial publisher, because obviously they have commercial goals, they have shareholders, they have responsibilities on their side which need to be met, and we are more comfortable not getting mixed up in all of that. You know, there's definitely a place for publishers in the industry, you know, and there are studios which definitely benefit greatly from having a publisher. I just don't think we're one of them. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, that's appreciated. Thinking here, it'd be nice to maybe have that overhang slightly. Not take up too much of the plant space, but can't really fit much in there anyway. It's funny, when you look at these wall panels, they always look so chunky and thick, but it's only about 2 inches across there. It looks a lot thicker than it actually is. If you were to actually hold that in your hand, you know, 2 inches is nothing really. Yeah, that was a spline I'd drawn previously. So I took the line of the framework mesh and then extruded the shape along that path to produce the shape there. Which I will now undo so that we can add some curvature to it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can see the path here. So what I did is I took the edge of this framework mesh and pulled it out by 5 centimeters, which is the width of this, and that gives us our path. To be honest, it's not particularly high poly. Could have been perhaps more than that, but we'll see when it's finished. So if we just round off the edges like that. Okay, Galactic, thanks for watching the stream. Always good to have you on board. Remember what size edge I used on this now. I think it was 1 centimeter. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely arguments for and against having real versus artificial flowers. I think having real plants on the ship definitely helps with mental health and just a general feeling of home from home. I think if they were all artificial, then we'd have it just wouldn't feel quite as natural. I really want a living wall in the VIP lounge as well. Yeah, these 2-layer panels, they're really useful because obviously you've got the wooden backing with the white plastic overlay, but you can create shapes like this. So you could do like an angle across there and create some interesting visual style with the white plastic whilst retaining what is a relatively simple wooden backing. Yeah, wall of flesh doesn't sound particularly pleasant. Take a copy of that so I don't lose it. Stick it over there. Yeah, I was thinking that would be a good job for the janitorial role. Something other than just cleaning. Just had a thought actually. I need to make sure that these line up snugly, and when you follow the path, it aligns the mesh to the path. So it can sometimes be useful to just draw a perpendicular line first before you go into your spline. So you create a straight edge relative to this, rather than have it coming off at an angle, and then it's lined up exactly where you need it to be. It's not even quite lined up there either. Which would suggest it's at a funny angle. We can fix that. Yeah, I definitely will be. I did have it split up beforehand, and I ran into an issue where when you're trying to create things which span multiple decks, you have no real visual reference for where things need to line up. So it can be very, very handy, like with here, doing stairs and things, to have the other decks loaded. But once that's done, and once we have all the holes cut through and everything's lined up where it should be, then yes, I'm definitely separating the SketchUp file into deck by deck files. So each deck will have its own dedicated SketchUp file, and that will make everything a lot less bloaty. And it'll have less errors as well. With everything being loaded at once, we get lots of floating point issues. So if I get rid of that, very true actually. Yeah, it does enable multi-user support way easier. Right, so I want that to be, go with 4 centimeters that way. So it's going to create another piece of geometry there, but we're not too concerned about poly count, and it does just make it generally nicer to work with. I'll do the same this side as well. Yeah, DLSS is an interesting one because it actually looks worse with DLSS enabled, because DLSS doesn't handle UIs very well, especially not small text, when you're using temporal anti-aliasing. And DLSS is a temporal technique itself. We did have it enabled, and I turned it off because it just looked awful. But that said, the upscaling slider that's in the game already is doing the same job as DLSS. So if you slide that down to about 75%, you'll find that frame rate increases dramatically with practically no visual difference. Yeah, I'd have to look into that and see what's involved. The other issue with DLSS specifically is it comes with set reduction settings, so you can't arbitrarily change the screen percentage. With DLSS, at least last time I looked at it, it gives you presets and you can only use those presets, whereas using temporal upscaling gives you far more control over just how much upscaling you want. Yeah, fair point. Yeah, temporal upscaling is vendor agnostic, which is always a good thing. Be more lined up now. Yeah, much better. So by adding that 4 centimeter 90-degree angle there, what that's done is it's just made sure that when we draw the next piece using a spline, it's going to line up absolutely exactly with this one. It gives you this extra bit of geometry here, but it's worth it just to get it lined up straight. Otherwise you see gaps in panels. I can't abide gaps in panels. That will very much do, I reckon. We should be able to just apply just an extra 1 centimetre curve on the edge of everything, just to smooth it all off nicely. Ooh, actually, just forgot. There needs to be a separation between the panels. So that goes at 0.5. That goes back 0.5. This is another benefit of adding that bit of straightening at the edge there, so you can just, it gives you the freedom to move this around arbitrarily, which you can't quite do if it's at an angle. So move that back 2. Yeah, definitely 0.5 there. Oh, that beeping is actually our microwave. Which is crazy. Crazy that the microphone picks that up, which is in our kitchen, like a whole room and a bit away. And yet my voice fades out when I'm sat right in front of the mic. Oh, it's not the microwave, it's the fridge. That's our fridge. You've left the door open alarm. Sounds like Claire's putting the shopping away. Well done, her. Yeah, the red alert lights will flash. They do flash now, I think. Yeah, the kids have all disappeared off upstairs. So I'm going to pull this rubber piece here down to the floor. So I've just remembered that that is what I was doing. Around these edges over here. So on this side here. So I'm pulling this down to ground level, and then the floor piece butts up against it with a slightly higher separation here. So you can see I've raised this up a bit so that the carpet pile, you can actually see the 3D detail in it, because otherwise this is hard to see with this lighting, but when you get down at ground level, you can see the carpet pile edges is rough against the rubber of the backing seal. If the wood is too low, then what you see instead is this, and you've got that sort of gamey artificial straight edge. Whereas if you pull out a little bit, you've now got a rough edge, which looks a lot more realistic than that. That's an example of when Dan thinks about things too much. So we're going to have a similar thing here around this edge, but I do need to think about this and how this is going to go around and connect to the edge, because it's going to need to butt up against the rubber. Yeah, the electrical boxes will be behind the panel. Now it might be the case that, because we've got quite a lot of depth to play with in the wall cavity, it's 35 centimeters. I actually experimented here with having a double cavity, so you've got it open on both sides, but it's not enough room. So like this needs to go, because that just didn't work. It was a failed experiment. Yeah, there's enough cavity in the wall there to have a decently deep bit of hardware. It would perhaps be nice to have some kind of bump on the panel, just to kind of sell the fact that there is something behind it. I'm going with the concept now of when you come to perform maintenance, because we've got these nicely visible bolts and things on the panels now, it makes sense that you'll just take the panel off to get to things. So in order to perform maintenance, you will pop the panel off like that, and then perform maintenance on the object within. Yeah, I looked at hatches and things you can remove on the panel, but the problem with that is it doesn't play well with the damage model, whereas just removing the panel temporarily while you access stuff, it reveals the structure and all the weld lines and everything behind the wall panel, which, that stuff was modeled and detailed to be seen. So it reveals the stuff we want to reveal without going through the hassle of having to have hatches that we need to work out where they're going to open, and we can't have the hatch come off and just be a physics object, because inevitably the ship will be filled with them. Exactly that, yes. So if there was a panel behind here, the electrical distribution, then the only way you'll know about it is because it will perhaps say it on the panel. There might be like an electrical symbol on there just to indicate that there's voltage behind here. But as an engineer, you'll come and take the panel off and access it as required. In the engineering sections, I think we will use the same approach, because even though, yes, it's engineering, there's going to be very little reason to access a breaker behind a wall panel. Certainly in a corridor. It's not the sort of daily bread and butter thing that engineering needs access to, on the regular. So anything which is barely touched will be hidden away behind wall panels. Ultimately, it's only undoing 4 bolts and you can take the panel off. Yeah, the big hardware will be exposed at all times in engineering for sure. The ones in the wall in the corridors, they don't need to be exposed. Yeah, absolutely. Within engineering proper, you need access to things like all the time. What's going on there? What I'll do is I'll have a separate piece on the inside for all the mud. Yeah, and I'll have that separate from the actual wall panel itself. I think in terms of the ship build, I think the mall area and the park, that's probably the bit I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth stuck into. Really making a really nice park area at the front of the ship, and then building the cinema and the bar and all that area. I think that's going to be quite a big challenge, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. So that's going to be good. In terms of the whole game, I think planetary landings and working on planetary surfaces, that's going to be a rabbit hole that I will gladly throw myself down. I want every planet to be unique and different, which is, impossible, but that's the goal. Yeah, well, technically there already is a talking ship's computer. If you do the tutorial mission, then that is actually the ship's computer that's talking to you. Sure, that should have been 0.25. Yeah. Yeah, it's half AI generated. On 11 Labs, you can speak the dialogue yourself, and it will use your, I guess, your intonation and your flow to do the AI voice. So that's what I used. So it is 11 Labs voices, but with me speaking. On some of them, anyway. I think all of the engineering one is just 11 Labs, with it doing the voice itself. And I think the newer bits of the scanning and nav was me speaking. Because the problem you have with 11 Labs is when you write some text to convert it to speech, it randomly chooses the inflection when it's speaking. So it'll say something like, and now press the button, rather than, and now press the button. And you have to re-record it again and again and again until you get the inflection you're looking for. But in the latest version, which I think was about 6 months ago, you can now just speak the dialogue yourself, and it'll apply that to the AI voice, which is so much easier. You don't have to keep regenerating it over and over again. So I might need to stick some rounding on this edge, because otherwise it's going to cause some problems. So if I stick 0.5 on there, which is what it should be anyway, and then we'll do something bigger on there, maybe. That's too much. Maybe 0.4. Does mean that the edge is kind of intersecting with the framework a little bit, but it might be the only way of doing this without it looking weird. Still looking weird. I think we'll just have to live with it like that, because you're not going to see it anyway. Not that. That's bad. I definitely should do the interior of the shed like this, but sadly, without a vacuum forming machine, it's not going to be possible. It would be cool though. What caused the distortion? So basically, we are butting up against the limits of SketchUp's comfort zone. When you're doing tiny little details like this with rounded edges which are very close to each other, it can, let's just say, have a hiccup. Oh, that's way too small. However, there are ways around it. To fix the nasty bits, and then the rest is all right. That edge there, which it generated because it thought it needed it, gone. It's because I did a sharp edge on here without rounding it off. If I'd rounded it off originally, it would have been fine. But that'll do. Yeah. Ultimately, the the detail you're looking at here is, let's measure it. That's under 2 millimeters, so we're definitely talking tiny details. Like this entire edge is 0.5 centimeter. So when you're stood up here, you're not going to notice some of those little bits. Okay, right, so something I did need to do is make sure that's the right height now. Having changed the height on those things. So we should be 4 centimeters off the deck. Which we are. Great. Okay, yeah, so that's exactly where it needs to be. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea. I mean, our original, idea is just to get it plasterboarded, but it would be funny to have it like literally decorated like the interior of the Magellan. I can hear Claire in the background going, "No." Why is that over there? Yeah, I'm sure it will be the doghouse. Claire's going to be like, get in your shed. So same process as before. All we need to do is copy this edge, paste it down, make a group out of that lot. Just line this up where we want it. So it's on the line-ish. Almost, could be a little bit closer. Just make sure that's all lined up there. Move it along that line to that face. Right, that should be exactly in the right place. And then, as before, we just need to draw our extended bit. I can guarantee she is. Set the axes here as well, actually. Right, so we need to pull that out by 5 centimeters. That gives us our separation away from the wall. You're welcome, Gundam. Colin Furze has done quite a lot of game-related builds. I wonder if at some point in the future we could get him to do a Starship-inspired build. That would be interesting and awesome. He tends to be far more hands-on than that, so I imagine anything he builds would be some kind of device. Weird. Why didn't it put it over there? Don't want it over there. Thank you, Atlantic. Yes, this is indeed very detailed. Some might say too detailed, but we do love the detail. Why is that not following the path? Let's try this other piece. Is it because we're using the back face? I bet it is. That's interesting. That one's not lined up either. I should investigate that later. Yeah, we were talking about that specific point earlier, and regarding just regarding indie game dev in general, and what it takes to produce a successful title. And I think for us, it's about doing something different. We don't want to do same old, same old. Like, that's the problem. Get rid of that. We don't want to just do another generic space sim. We want to do something different to the other space sims out there. And having that fully simulated ship and like this crazy level of detail and the real astrophysics in the galaxy, that's what makes us different to all the other space sims out there. We're not doing the same as everyone else, and I think that's really the key to success in the indie industry, is do something different. Don't just make another roguelike which has been done 1,000 times already. Be unique. Yeah, and that's exactly where at least my approach to development comes from. I'm so, I guess, impressed by what SpaceX have done and have achieved already, and the way that they've achieved it. I think it's a fantastic work methodology to achieving success. It was I find a picture I was looking at the other day. So I think this image really sums up everything you need to know about SpaceX and the approach they take to engineering challenges. yeah, exactly that. It's this is essentially the same engine, and everything that the Raptor 3 does is the same as what the Raptor 1 was doing. It's the same hardware, it's performing the same job, and there are obviously hundreds of little changes and tweaks here and there, but fundamentally the Raptor 3 is the same engine as the Raptor 1, and yet look at the difference. And that's iterative design and deleting components that you don't need, and I think that the methodology behind that is just all engineering should be learning from how SpaceX do things, because it's just incredible. You've got a company which is churning out an engine per day in an industry where an engine per year is considered quick. It's just absolutely madness. And to go from the complexity of the Raptor 1 down to the minimalistic nothingness of the Raptor 3, which it looks like it's incomplete. It's like you look at the Raptor 3 and he's like, where's all the parts? Where did it all go? And it's because it's all built into the literal structure of the engine. All those pipes and channels and things are literally channels within the metalwork. It's just genius. So this image to me is iterative design on a pedestal, and I love it. And that's how we're building stuff. Yeah, exactly. I mean, full flow stage combustion, Methalox, in such a neat package, an engine which was thought impossible as well. You know, it's mad. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Launch 5. Where's my spline gun? There it is. Yeah, when it comes to unions and working, I guess those are the areas where Elon in particular is heavily criticized because you've got Elon who is an absolute workaholic and I guess a bit like me really just does nothing but eat, drink and sleep, work. But he expects that of everybody. So he expects all of his employees to have the same work ethic as him, which, when you have a life and a family, it's just not possible. And, that's where things fall down a little bit. I think he's received a lot of heat for that. Yeah, it's things like Elon on multiple occasions has slept at his place of work. He'll sleep in the office. He'll literally live there because he feels that he can't take his finger off the pulse for 1 second. And obviously the proof's in the pudding. It's a model that works. He's achieved great success with it. But to expect that of every employee, even people on minimum wage, they're not paid the kind of wage to sleep in the office and work those kind of hours, to literally make their job their whole entire existence. And it's unfair to expect that of people. That said, I'd be curled up right next to him. Hey Anati, I'm working on some of the wall panels for BDEC. Just putting in the paneling for the framework, starting to clean it up a bit. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that I am inspired heavily by Elon and the way he approaches challenges. I think there's I mean, he's a very controversial character, and a lot of people really hate on Elon for various reasons, and some of it's completely justified. I mean, he does struggle with putting his foot in his mouth a lot, and he does do and say things which kind of makes you cringe. But that aside, you can't argue with the results. Yeah, I think it just takes a certain type of personality to work for someone like Elon. You need to be like fully invested emotionally and physically in the job that you're doing, because he expects that level of commitment from people. And if you do have that level of commitment, then yeah, it must be just an amazing job. And you only need to look at the SpaceX people on stream. Look at any of the Starship test launches. You've got literally hundreds and hundreds of people who are all SpaceX employees, literally just screaming and cheering at the top of their lungs because they're so into what they're doing. They're so excited by it, and they're so driven by success. Yeah, it is. It's literally like a rock concert. To see that joy and excitement on their faces. This isn't just a job to them. This is something special. And yeah, I can relate. Definitely. It's how I feel working on this project. This isn't a job to me. I'm not just a game dev as a career. This is something special. Alright, let's get these in engine and have a look, because I just noticed the time. It's been almost 3 hours. So I shall export these meshes and we shall see what they look like. Why is that so tall? What am I missing? I certainly have my flaws, Firstus, but thank you. I'm going to export these with... Oh, didn't want to delete all that. With a common origin point. for now, just to test them. Ultimately, they need their origin set to the corridor anchor points, but just to see what they look like, I'll use where they are. I am definitely looking forward to seeing this thing polished. I don't think it's a project which will ever be finished. I think there's always going to be something that we add or develop. But seeing it polished would be nice. What am I doing? Importing. I was going to say, is it going to let me import? Wall panels, where are you? There you are. Yeah, or in my case, there's always a deeper rabbit hole. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can do, when you're dealing with an entire galaxy. Yeah, I mean, it is an endless amount of opportunity. Okay, so we'll get a handrail put around here, and it'll be nice to blend that into this one somehow. Have it curl around there, and maybe have that one curl outward, just so they connect. And then we'll have to connect this panel here to this wall somehow. So that's going to have to kind of mold over that edge. And I'll probably use subdivision for that. So that's going to be very, very organic. And we're looking at the carpet detail. It's not too bad. It should line up practically next to it. Okay, so that needs to come back a little bit. I think this one I moved ever so slightly, so it's not overlapping. Yeah, so I'll bring this one out ever so slightly, so it's not just protruding through like that. Yeah, Delta, that's exactly the plan, to be honest. If I just export this, you just see the brackets, because once I put the bolt holes through, that is exactly the case. So they just kind of drop on top, and then you bolt them in place. Yeah, kickboards is an interesting idea. I think definitely around engineering. See, Nanite's still working on this mesh, so no idea why it stopped working on the other one. So, got some brackets in there now. Right. Side too. Again, these won't always be stuck with a world origin over there. I'll do them properly so that, like these ones, they're world origins at the anchor point. Yeah, I think this is going to look really nice when it's done. Having the wooden base to them really kind of sets them off. It's a shame it's quite so dark, to be honest. It'd be nice if it was a little bit more lit up. We shall see. Okay, well I shall I shall go ahead and stick this out as a build in a minute. Just save all of this. Always makes me nervous when it just stops saving halfway through. Why have you stopped? Yeah, footlights is something I wanted to put into the carpets actually, and that was another reason I wanted to have cavities underneath, so we had somewhere to put the wiring for it. Because like in an emergency situation, if the ship is full of smoke, it would be nice to have floor lights, sort of directing crew where the escape exits are. Okay. Did it save? Ah, there we go. That was weird. I will save it again, yeah, definitely. Let's pick a pretty plant to put in there, just to see what it looks like. Why are all these suddenly coming up untextured? Yes, a shrubbery. Let's drag in the other browser. Really? Am I going to have to click on every single one of these? Yeah, that's not very detailed. I've been collecting various flower and plant packs over the years, and some of them, like this one, are horrible, and I just need to get on with deleting them. Try the other pack. To fix that material. How detailed are you? Not very. Yeah, and these plant packs are very old. Probably 5+ years old, to be honest, at this point, which is why they're so low detail. These days, nanite plants can just literally be like perfect. So I just need to update them, I think. Some of these aren't too bad. See what that looks like. There we go, a plant. I should have to get Claire's plant skills involved. Yeah, I think when that's done nicely with some really nice plants, I think that's going to look really nice. I'll have to put some spotlights in the ceiling above it to light it all up as well. I'll get rid for now because it's not a very nice plant. Right, let's try saving again. Yeah, the planetary surfaces will be done procedurally. Don't worry about that. I think on the ship, every one of these planters, because these are going to be planters as well, so they'll have bushes and shrubberies in them. This is going to be a very pretty corridor, I think, once it's done. Hopefully not too foliagey. I guess we don't want it to look like a greenhouse, but I think some plants outside each of the VIP quarters will look good. Right, okay, I think I'm going to call it there. Hi Christopher, I'm afraid that's really bad timing. I'll show you what I did work on. So I worked on the end piece for there, and that little bit there. And that aside, earlier on today I was working on door frames, so just putting in all the door bits and pieces in here. And we've got 23 new crosshairs that you can pick from, and things like head bob is off by default now, and head bob has been moved into the settings menu, so it's off by default and will never be on unless you choose to turn it on, and it's completely separate from the C rotation when you do the camera cycle. Yeah, I've added some forward and back indicators on the tutorial, dialogue text. When I've added variable camera zoom as well. Actually, I'll just show you just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So as you can see, my cursor, my crosshair rather, is different. It's one of the new ones. And yeah, you can customize all of the interior colours. So you can kind of change all the wall colours to anything you wish. Like so. It works just like magic. Yeah, the zoom function, I'll just set my cursor back to the original. Yeah, so under accessibility, you've now got a camera zoom amount. So by default it's 50, so that's just a zoom of that. And then you can change that now to an extreme amount, so you can zoom right in. So if you're hard of seeing, then you can zoom right in on stuff. We've had a couple of people request some improvements for being able to see the UI screens. So you can, if you're having trouble with the text, arguably that's even harder to read, but you get the idea. You can zoom right in on it now. What else did I do? Yeah, so you can see that head bob is now off, and as I go through the camera cycle, you can see that the head bob mode is no longer included in the camera cycle. But if we go into the preferences, you can see you can turn head bob on now, and head bob, and again it stays on when you do the camera cycle. So that was a popular request. What was the other thing? There was another thing. Head bob, camera zoom. Oh, it was tutorial text. But that's just, it just says enter to skip and backspace to go to the previous tutorial step. Yes, I'm going to put the build out momentarily. It usually takes about half an hour to 40 minutes to upload, because when I do the development version of the build, which has the console and everything enabled, it always re-uploads the entire thing to Steam. So that's always about half an hour or so. So yeah, give it about an hour and you should see a new build being released. So I shall go ahead and do that. I think that's everything. So project settings. So set the build number to 35. And start building. So that will package away quite happily now. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Right, so that's it from me. I shall go and finish off doing the build. And yeah, and I shall then crack on with doing some more of those to-do list items off of the patch notes. So thank you once again, everyone, for watching the stream. Sorry for being an hour late today. I'll try not to be so late next time. Yeah, so have a good one, be safe, and I shall see you on Sunday's stream. Bye for now.